It is Saturday, the 13th of September, 1975. Fraternal twins named Tshepo le Matshepo are born to two loving parents in Pretoria, the capital city of South Africa. Tshepo is the boy, and his name means hope, whilst Matshepo is the girl, and her name means she who brings hope. Equality established at birth, right? When the twins are 7 years old, Tshepo, the boy, is taken to karate lessons. Not only because he needs to learn how to fight and to defend himself, but also so that he can be able to defend his twin sister and his future wife. At the same time, Matshepo, the girl, is taught how to wash dishes and how to clean the house. Studies that have been conducted by historic Japanese senseis indicate that being a karateka doesn't only teach you self-defense, but that it teaches you other salient skills like discipline, hard work, mental strength, resilience, and respect. So when the twins were 10 years old, their parents decided to buy them a BMX bicycle. So this bicycle belonged to both of them equally. However, in the home, it was called Tshepo's bike. This created an impression in both the twins' mind that it belonged more to Tshepo than it belongs to Matshepo. So Tshepo then monopolized on the bicycle. He rode it all the time. Matshepo got onto the bike once, fell off the bike, and he never got onto any bike until she was 35 years old and she was married to a cyclist. Studies that have been conducted around bicycles as an intermediate form of transport, especially in sub-Saharan African villages, indicate that 81% of boys have access to and use bicycles on a daily basis to get to school and to get to work, while only 48% of girls have access to bikes and they use them on a daily basis. Why, you ask? Partly because there's still societal fear around the vulnerability of women or females' reproductive organs. There is a fear that if you're a girl and you start riding a bike at an early age, you run the risk of being barren and being unable to have children when you're older. So what this means, though, is that boys who learn how to ride bikes at an early age and have access to bicycles, therefore have an opportunity to go to school and get educated, and they also have an opportunity to find work and to go and look for work. When the twins were 16 years old, Tshepo, the boy, was taught how to drive a car. So driving a car means that you get to do chores that I call strategic, some people call them functional, where you learn skills like decision-making, communication, networking, and just overall people relation skills. While Matshepo, the girl, in the home, she was taught how to keep the family and how to look after her younger siblings in preparation for her being an amazing mother and an excellent wife in future. Incidentally, when the twins were 21 years old, Tshepo, the boy, is the one that taught his twin sister, Matshepo, how to drive a car. My name is Matshepo Msibi, and what I've just shared with you is my story. Why am I telling you my personal business? I'm telling you this story not because I'm seeking or asking for sympathy or I'm asking you to feel sorry for me. On the contrary, I have been able to achieve a lot. I have been able to succeed, irrespective of how I was raised and irrespective of what society says girls can or cannot do. I am telling you my business, my story, because I would like us to give gender inequality a human face. I would like us to discover and be aware that gender inequality is socialized in the home. and that if we are very intentional about dismantling it and chipping away at it, we need to start in the home. Because if we don't start dismantling it in the home, we can forget about being able to dismantle it or destroy it in the work environment. My story is not unique, especially on the African continent. In Africa, there's 9 million girls between the ages of 6 and 11 who will never get an opportunity to go to school. Why? Because they were born girls. That's it, as compared to 4 million boys. So there's been a lot of studies and dialogues and conversations and even research conducted in the last decade around gender equality. So much so that people are starting to get gender equality fatigue. People are tired of the conversations and the dialogues. So how do we move from conversation to action? We move from conversation to action by getting awareness around how it shows up in the home. We move by, once we are aware, making decisions to stop or to change those behaviors. We move by changing behavior. So, in order for me to help you in this movement from dialogues to action, I would like to introduce to you what I call the inequality triangle, the gender inequality triangle. It is a lens that I'm offering you to wear on a daily basis. It is a lens that I believe if we wear on a daily basis, that we should be able to start chipping away at gender inequality. So we all know that a triangle has got 3 angles. So the first angle of our triangle is scanning the room. So what does scanning the room mean? Scanning the room means when you walk into a room, any room, every room, you look around and you ask yourself, are we all here? You ask yourself, are we all represented in this room? Creating self-awareness. Because if you're not aware, if asiphelelanga, we are not all here, you will never solve for it. The room could be a literal room. It could be a meeting room. It could be a leadership, a political, a religious especially. It could be a community meeting where you look around the room and you ask, are we all here? The room can be a panel discussion where you look at the panel and you ask, is everybody represented on the panel? Are there enough women on the panel as much as men? The room can be on the panel discussion. You check that the questions that are being posed at women, are they the same questions that are being posed at men? The room could be your home. It could literally be your kitchen, where you ask and you check, when you're coming into your kitchen, are you only asking your daughter what's for dinner? And you're not asking your son the same question. So once you've created awareness and you know that asiphelelanga, we are not all here, you move to the second angle. So I've broken down my second angle into 2 parts, but my second angle is called solutioning. The first part of solutioning is creating corporate awareness. So the fact that I am aware that asiphelelanga, we are not all here, doesn't mean that my neighbor is aware. So how do I do that? By asking my neighbor, are we all here? Part of the reason why my neighbor might not be aware is because we all walk through life wearing different lenses. And these lenses are informed by our background, our history, even our privilege informs our different lenses. So it is possible for you to walk into a room, into a meeting room, into a boardroom, and see that asiphelelanga, we are not all here, but your neighbor doesn't see it. So it becomes our responsibility to identify it, but also to bring everybody along. The second part of my solutioning is actually coming up with the solution. So now that you're aware that asiphelelanga, what are you going to do in order to change the gender unequal environment? What actions are you going to put in place? What decisions are you going to make? What are you going to stop doing and start doing? Once you have decided on what that decision is, once you've answered all those big, amazing questions, you then move to the third and last angle of our triangle. That angle is action. A sage once said, finding 100 solutions and implementing none is an exercise in futility. Therefore, we need to stop being a generation of futile exercises. I want to offer you an example of a South African who implemented, in my knowledge, in my idea, in my assumption, who implemented the inequality triangle. I think he did it exceptionally well. His name is Rems Mabote. He is a South African, he is a social commentator, he is a journalist, an entrepreneur, a PR coach, and his most prized title is the Chief Volunteer Officer of Future Kings. So Rem scanned his environment. His environment is the community. He scanned the environment and he realized, asiphelelanga, we are not all here. He realized that as a nation, we are raising a nation, a generation of fatherless boys. He realized that we are raising a generation of boys that do not have role modeling in their lives. And therefore, the consequences of that is the social ills and the social challenges that we are facing that are man-made and man-based. He then went into solutioning, and he then asked some of his friends, some of his colleagues to say, are you guys aware that we are all not here? Are you aware that we have a number of households that do not have father figures or male role models for their boy children? Second portion of the second angle, he then went into solutioning and he said, what do I need to do in order to create or develop male role modeling for boys, especially boys who come from single-parent households that do not have a male role model in their lives? He went into action. He then decided to establish a program for boys, a program that provides mentorship for boys, a program that teaches and empowers boys around manhood and chips away at toxic masculinity traits that we see manifesting itself into social ills in our communities and our locations. He became that guy. He became part of the solution. So let me come back to my story with my parents. I personally think that my parents were able in their mature life to implement the inequality, gender inequality triangle very well. So they scan their environment. The environment is the home. And they then realize that you cannot raise Generation X's the same way, you cannot raise millennials the same way that you raise Generation X's, because you need to prepare them differently. They need a different skill set, and they need to be multifaceted. They went into solutioning and they said, okay, so what are some of the things as parents that we need to do, that we need to change? What are some of the decisions that we need to put in place in order for us to create an environment in our home that allows our children to be able to be global citizens that contribute towards and participate in society? They went into action and they created what I call an equitable share or an equitable allocation of chores in the home. So my siblings that come after me were raised completely different from how I was raised. Therefore, in the Makatu household, it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. So irrespective of whether you're a boy or a girl, you would find yourself in the kitchen, you'd find yourself in the car, you'd find yourself under the car, you'd find yourself in the garden, you'd find yourself painting the walls, you'd even find yourself riding the bike. So if my parents, who are of pensionable age, were able to become part of the solution, you don't have an excuse not to become part of the solution. Why do you need to be part of the solution? Why does this matter so much? This matters because if you don't become part of the solution and start dismantling gender inequality in the home, number one, you will never dismantle it in the workplace. But number two, and most importantly, if you don't become part of the solution, 9 million girls between the ages of 6 and 11 on the African continent will continue being excluded from education. If you don't become part of the solution, your mother, because everybody has a mother, your sister, your daughter, your wife, will continue getting paid less for work of equal value. In closing, I want to tell you that it is not the responsibility of government. It's not the responsibility of feminists. It's not even the responsibility of women alone. It is all our responsibility. Therefore, I want to stand on the words of one of our greatest presidents in South Africa, President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, who once said in one of his speeches, "It is in your hands." Therefore, I charge you today that it is in your hands to make the right decision for the girls on the continent. It is in your hands to make the right decision for humanity. I thank you.